The Chicago White Sox secured at least a 500 record for the season by beating the Minnesota Twins on Tuesday night 8-3. Lucas Giolito finished the season strong with a quality start, and the Sox offense was 5 for 6 with runners in scoring position. Although he may not be in the starting lineup, could Wednesday be the last time we see Jose Abreu in a White Sox uniform?
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Sox fans, welcome to Locked On White Sox. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen each and every day. We're free and available on all platforms. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On Sox. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just search Locked On White Sox. Today's episode of Locked On White Sox is sponsored by Simply Safe Home Security. With Fast Protect technology exclusively from Simply Safe, 24/7 monitoring agents capture evidence to accurately verify a threat for faster police response. There's no safe like Simply Safe. Visit simplysafe.com/lockedonmlb to learn more. Hey, I'm your host, Nick Morawski, a lifelong diehard Chicago White Sox fan, recording this podcast just blocks from the ballpark in beautiful Bridgeport. You can find me on Twitter at Nick_GGTB. Really appreciate you letting me steal some of your time to talk White Sox. Locked On White Sox is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Is this the end of the line for number 79? Elvis Andrus continues to make his case for a spot on the 2023 roster. And after sitting with Rick Hahn's comments from Monday, let's explore the White Sox managerial search once again. State of the White Sox, they are 81 and 80, second place in the AL Central with just one game left. Sox beat the Twins 8-3 on Tuesday night, and Davis Martin will be on the hill for the finale on Wednesday. Here we are, folks, the final game of the season. What a journey it has been, and not the don't stop believing kind, that's for sure. I say it in the opening of this podcast, and I truly mean it. Thank you so much for giving me your time, especially during a season like the one we've had as Sox fans. I have really appreciated the support, and it's been a pleasure sharing my passion for the Chicago White Sox with you on a daily basis. So one more game to go. I was still sitting with some of Tony La Russa's comments from Wednesday. We'll talk about Rick Hahn's comments a little bit more as well. Again, some of the statements that popped out for me from La Russa were our team's record this season is the final reality. It is an unacceptable disappointment. And then, of course, the big one, I was hired to provide positive difference-making leadership and support. Our record is proof I did not do my job. I thought Tony La Russa's written statement was well worded. I like that he took ownership and that it was not just a press release, but that he also took questions. Wish him a full recovery and plenty of well-deserved rest in Arizona. But with another managerial search on the way here, fourth time in 8 seasons, it just feels like there are more questions now than answers. Like the White Sox organization is going backwards at the worst possible time. However, with a new manager, new coaching staff, and perhaps with a lot of the same players returning with what we hope is a new focus, anything is, of course, possible in 2023. Still processing Rick Hahn's comments from Monday. I think we'll all be doing this until maybe this manager is indeed hired. Let's go through some of the comments once again that Rick Hahn had on Monday. Maybe try to break them apart a little bit, elaborate on them. So according to Rick Hahn, he will be leading the hiring process, but it will be a collaborative effort. So I guess the question is, and we're all probably asking it, are you really going to be leading the process, and why should we trust you? Something else Hahn said is, we want someone who played a key role in a winning organization. So that casts a wide net. So you really can't eliminate any of the names that you maybe have heard or that have been rumored. Joe Madden, a recent one that just popped up. Winning organization, that term that can be interpreted in a lot of different ways, which the crafting of that term is classic Rick Hahn. He went on to say current acting manager Miguel Cairo has earned an interview for the full-time job this offseason. That's really self-explanatory. Miguel Cairo had an exciting 3-week period. The White Sox were playing some of their best baseball. They looked like a completely different team. There were some still hiccups with the defense, base running, and offense, especially with runners in scoring position. But I wasn't thrilled. I wasn't terribly thrilled that Cairo constantly credited Tony La Russa. But I think the people in the know realize he has the ability to lead. So not surprised that they're going to talk to Miguel Cairo. Hahn also said decisions on coaches will be made with new manager. I love that. I don't think anybody should be safe. New managers should be allowed to clean house and handpick their coaching staff. Hahn said he wouldn't rule out any managers with previous connections to the White Sox. Hahn did say that the organization is eager to get some outside perspective on the team. So when you think about the term outside perspective, maybe you're eliminating candidates like Guillen, Przynski, Tomey, Cairo, maybe even Willie Harris, perhaps. Hahn said, quote, I think we are going to use this opportunity to get different perspectives, new way of looking at things, a little different from those who have been a little more insular to the organization, end quote. So if Hahn and company are going solely with prior managerial experience, then obviously guys like Bruce Bochy, Joe Girardi, have you heard that name, Joe Madden, Ozzie Guillen, those are the names maybe to watch for. After reading and rereading everything Rick Hahn has said on the managerial search, I go back and forth on who I think the next manager will be. I don't think I can actually figure it out, especially with the way things went with La Russa last time around. However, since Bruce Bochy was a guy that was thought of last time and almost became the manager if La Russa said no, I would not be surprised if 3-time World Series champion Bruce Bochy is the next guy. But I'm sure, I'll have a different theory tomorrow. Hahn also said something that was kind of interesting. I think talking more about his job, of course. Hahn said, quote, 2 years ago, our baseball operations department was getting nods for executive of the year. A year ago, we won the division by whatever 11 or 12 games. And this year we were picked for being in the World Series. And now we're being asked if we should be in our jobs. That's just the fun of being in pro sports. A fair question given pro sports and given the accountability we all want to have. But know that we ask those questions of ourselves more than anybody, end quote. Again, to recap something Hahn mentioned from his press conference on Monday, he said, if I felt that I wasn't the right person for the job, I would step aside, and that I'm thankful to have continued support from ownership. I have a feeling Hahn is a little frustrated with Sox fans, folks that have maybe been talking on social media, and rightfully so. I mean, what has Rick Hahn actually produced? One division title, a couple playoff wins, not series wins, wins. I know there's been deals struck, and he has managed to really sell off assets for some exciting players. But what has that really gotten us so far? It is going to be an eventful offseason, I hope, and a positive one. Lucas Giolito ended things on a high note, and Elvis Andrus brought the power. I'm going to tell you why the White Sox will have some serious decisions to make this offseason. More on that in a moment. The numbers don't lie. In the last decade, over 4 million people have chosen Simply Safe Home Security to protect their home. You don't earn the trust of that many people without doing something right. At Simply Safe, your safety is the only thing that matters. I know because I use Simply Safe in my own home. They protect you with cutting-edge security technology powered by 24/7 professional monitoring agents who always have your back. Simply Safe blankets your home in protection with advanced sensors for every room, window, and door, HD security cameras for inside and outside your home, smarter ways to detect motion that only alert you when a threat is real, and even hazard sensors that instantly detect fires, floods, and other threats to your home. Our monitoring experts use our monitoring experts use advanced response technology to visually confirm when a break-in is real, so you get the highest priority police dispatch. Customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplysafe.com/lockedonmlb. Save 20% on your Simply Safe security system when you sign up for an interactive monitoring plan and get your first month free. Visit simplysafe.com/lockedonmlb to learn more. There's no safe like Simply Safe. How about that game on Tuesday? Sox took down the Minnesota Twins 8-3. It was the second to last game of the season, of course. A series that wasn't on the calendar originally. That San Diego series was supposed to be the last of the season, but of course, of the lockout, this Minnesota series that was supposed to happen earlier in the year has now been bumped to the end. Offense for the White Sox. First inning, Jose Abreu with his 40th double of the season. His power numbers have been way down, but his average has been above 300, still getting those big hits when needed. Sox had runners on second and third with 2 outs, but Gavin Sheets struck out. Lots of conversation between Gordon Beckham and Jason Benetti on Abreu's future. Gordon Beckham filling in for Steve Stone, who was observing Yom Kippur. Stone and Benetti exchanged pleasantries on Monday during the 8th inning. I don't know if you were watching. Thought it was kind of interesting as they were saying goodbye to each other, thanking each other for another great season. However, how they were talking, bringing up past seasons together and the journey that they've been on, it sounded more like a goodbye than a see you in the spring. There are a lot of rumors about, Steve Stone's contract being up. Jason Benetti also perhaps having a contract that's up. Of course, they're not going to really release any big news right now. Maybe they're still trying to get some numbers and years and things figured out. I've enjoyed Steve Stone and Jason Benetti. We'll see. Steve Stone's been in the booth for 40 years now. So we'll see if he's back at it. Steve Stone, a staple in Chicago broadcasting. Obviously starting things with the Chicago Cubs, but has been with the White Sox for a long, long time. So stay tuned on that. Third inning, Yoan Moncada doubled home Elvis Andrus to tie the game at 1. Next season's designated hitter, Eloy Jimenez, with an RBI double down the left field line, 2-1 White Sox. Then Gavin Sheets shot a single through the infield, 2-run score, 4-1 White Sox at this point. Next inning, Sox added again. Sox put another 4 runs on the board thanks to a 3-run homer by Elvis Andrus. There have been no quit in Elvis Andrus. It was 8-1 White Sox, and that was it for the Sox. 2 big innings. Elvis Andrus, man, he has been something else. What a spark since coming over, especially with the bat. I know he wants to come back to the White Sox, willing to change positions. I think you have to really consider that with what he's been doing offensively. Sox offense, 8 runs, 8 hits, 4 extra base hits. Abreu, Moncada, Jimenez, each with a double. Elvis Andrus with a home run. Sox were 5 for 6 with runners in scoring position. Sox scored in the 3rd and 4th inning. Lucas Giolito was on the hill for the White Sox. Roller coaster of a season for sure, but Giolito finished strong. Second inning was difficult. Minnesota had 2 guys on with nobody out to start the inning. Both were hit by a pitch. Miranda caught it in the face after ricocheting off his hand. Minnesota was able to get a run across 1-0 early. Giolito with 25 pitches after 2 innings. After 5 innings, though, Lucas Giolito only issued 1 hit to the Twins and had 60 pitches. He was on cruise control. In the 6th inning, some problems were presented there by the Minnesota Twins. Giolito only gave up 1 run in that inning, but threw a lot of pitches. Nice double play by Yoan Moncada to end the inning. Giolito's final line, 7 innings, 2 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, and he's got his ERA under 5, 4.90. He threw 91 pitches on Tuesday. Jake Diekman had the 8th inning. That was clean. And in the 9th, Jose Ruiz gave up a solo home run, but too little too late for Minnesota. Sox win to clinch at least a 500 record in the season. Even though he may not play in the game, I'm going to tell you why Wednesday may be the last time we see Jose Abreu in a White Sox uniform. More on that in a moment. Is the season finale on Wednesday Jose Abreu's final game? 9 seasons on the South Side, an AL MVP, countless awards, and a class act. A White Sox legend, in my opinion. This was Han on Abreu on Monday. Han was non-committal on Jose Abreu past this season, saying it remains to be seen how things will fit and that Abreu's return will have a ripple effect on the roster to consider. Of course, Abreu's been with the White Sox since 2014, primarily first base, does not like to be solely a DH. This is what Abreu had to say prior to Tuesday's game. James Fegan of The Athletic with this. Jose Abreu on whether he wants to play baseball next year. Of course, I love baseball. Staying with the White Sox is less certain. He says there haven't been talks with the front office and that he will take time this offseason to rest and think about what comes next. Abreu's message to White Sox fans: I want to thank them for all the support, for always having my back. These were a special 9 years, and I hope that there can be more. But up to now, it's been very special, and I'm going to be forever grateful for them. Interesting comments there by Jose Abreu. He is the White Sox Iron Man, captain, leader, and mentor to so many players that have come through the White Sox organization over the years, has led by example, and it was truly an amazing example. Saying goodbye to Abreu will be beyond difficult for most White Sox fans, but I never thought I'd say goodbye to Mark Burley or Frank Thomas, Ozzie Guillen, or even Robin Ventura. Didn't think they would ever wear a different jersey. What's best for the organization? That's probably a loaded question, because it's my belief that what's best is rarely followed through. But if you decide with your heart, Abreu comes back on a 1-year deal, maybe 2, and Andrew Vaughn is perhaps traded. If you decide with your head, then I think Abreu is allowed to walk and the Sox begin a new era. No matter what, I think the decision on Jose Abreu needs to be made quickly, and it will, like Hans said, have ripple effects. Folks, thank you so much for making this podcast part of your daily routine. You can find the Locked On White Sox podcast absolutely everywhere you find your podcasts. We are on Twitter at Locked On Sox. You can find me on Twitter at Nick_GGTB. Thanks for making the Locked On White Sox your first listen. Now make your second listen the Locked On MLB podcast. MLB expert Paul Francis Sullivan brings humor, passion, and unique perspective on every team and the biggest stories around the league. Follow the #1 daily league-wide podcast, Locked On MLB, on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Coming up on the next episode, I'll recap the last game of the season and hopefully be celebrating a White Sox winner. Really appreciate you making time for the Locked On White Sox podcast. I'm Nick Morawski. Until next time, go Sox.